This is Tony Verhoeven, and we're talking industrial automation with Sam Hoff of Patti Engineering. Hi, Sam.
Tony. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. Thanks for inviting me here. We're at the Manufacturing in America conference here in Detroit. It's mid-March 2018 right now,
and there's still snow on the ground.
There's still snow here, but spring teases us now and then here with a little bit of warmness as well. So, but today I just wanted to sit down with you and talk. I've interviewed several other system integrators that have been with CSIA for a length of time, and a lot of them have been certified so far. So I appreciate you sitting down with me and wanted to learn a little bit about you and your business and how you got here, and just kind of learn about what are some of the trends that are going on in industrial automation and control system engineering, and just kind of get your thoughts on that. I think people will really be interested to hear what you have to say.
Absolutely.
Great. So let's start with CSIA right now. So far, you've been a member for how long?
First ever CSIA conference was 1996, and I think that was maybe the third or fourth conference. I'm not sure, but it was. I remember it was a long time ago.
and what made you think about joining them? How did you discover them? Because they were only a few years old at the time and probably relatively unknown.
So it was interesting. Back in that time, I was still doing work in the field myself, still a programmer, right, punching the keys. And I can remember being in a plant, working second shift, doing some production support, all this kind of stuff, and you're kind of bored at that time, right? Because hopefully you're bored and you're getting out of there soon because the system's running well. So I grabbed a couple magazines, and I think I grabbed Control Engineering magazine, and I opened it up and I read about the CSIA, and I'm like, wow, that is something that my business does. Here I am, I got 4 people total, you know what I mean, with myself. But this is really cool. This sounds like a great organization. So a guy, John Pittman at the time, was the executive director. I contacted him, and he extended me an invitation to the conference, and I went.
And here we are today.
And here I am, 22 years later.
Well, let's dig into that a little bit here. So you joined, and you found maybe some brethren, some fellow engineers, maybe to connect with here. So what was maybe the story behind that?
Well, it just the conference is such a great time to go out and take a 30,000-foot view of your company. And the sessions are usually really good. There's been some great sessions. I always like Mark Voigtman's session on law. I deal with Mark Voigtman as I tell him he's a great attorney because he keeps me out of court, as a very good attorney will do. So I get a lot of feedback. Obviously, Alan Bolio is just terrific. His contribution to the conference, but you also learn a lot in the bar at the conference, because you learn a lot just kind of exchanging stories with other integrators and learning about how they do things and handle certain situations and that kind of stuff. So it's always helps with the quest to get better, to take a look at people that maybe are doing things better than you, and trying to see how you can kind of emulate them.
Right. So there's always something to learn, even how many years in?
22. Oh yeah, there's always something to learn, and this, business, and in just manufacturing and what we do has changed so much since '96. So.
How so? Tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, it's all about doing more with less these days, and how you can be efficient. And our control systems in the field have become more and more complicated, with more and more smart devices and more intelligent sensors being used, and all this kind of good stuff. So and as that complexity grows, it's like, how do you maintain that system when it's in? It used to be that you just kind of designed a system, you put it into a plant, and you assumed it would work forever. Maybe they call you, but you find that the touch with the customer has to be more and more, because they're gonna always want to see how they can improve their systems, how they can get more efficiency out of it. So.
Mm-hmm. So what does the customer come to you asking for specifically? Are they saying, hey, we've got this particular business unit or this plant that is maybe not operating as efficiently as it should, or are they seeing some numbers that there's some sort of dropout? Or?
So a lot of times maybe they have some type of clue or some type of thing of what's going on, and they'll say, hey, what kind of solution would you do to solve this? And a lot of times it's solving problems and taking a kind of a holistic approach to what issues they may be dealing with. So.
Mm-hmm. Well, from the other end, so if you've got a sales rep or a business development rep, what are some of the things that they're asking maybe factories and manufacturers out there? What are they trying to, kind of problem are you trying to solve from a business standpoint?
I always like the question, what keeps you up at night?
Yeah.
So, because a lot of times you'll get to the real pain by asking that and just having a simple conversation. A lot of times when you have that conversation, it could be something that you can't even solve for them, but having that trusted advisor relationship with your clients and looking out for their best interest, you'll end up doing great. So.
And do you see any trends? What is causing some insomnia in manufacturing and automation these days?
I think I recently had a conversation with a client, and he has 200 manufacturing engineers working for him. Within 5 years, 100 of those will be eligible to retire. There's a lot of knowledge that's leaving his facility and his facilities. And how do you replace that knowledge? How do you manufacture in the 21st century? Mm-hmm. How does Industry 4.0 and IIoT play into all of it? So,
what are some of the risks that you're seeing, or maybe risks or trends, kind of industrial automation and manufacturing that you're seeing? Any kind of challenges that you've identified?
For sure, the blending of the OT, which is the operations technology, and the IT, the information technology, and those areas being blended together. I remember a quote from Dick Morley saying that we called it a PLC because we didn't want IT getting their hands onto our device. And, there's been a 50-year war between IT and OT with neither one of them understanding how each other function. That has become blended more so. But now the question is now that we're getting, data, what do you do with the data? I mean, I talk to manufacturing engineers that will tell me, I get tons and tons and tons of data, but just trying to keep that system out there running, and I have no time to go through this data and analyze it, and there's so much data, but there's no information, right? There's huge difference between data and information. So how do you take that data and how do you glean information out of it? And I think a lot of that analysis of that cannot be done by the person who's trying to keep that system running. It has to be done offline by a data scientist or somebody that can really do that, or sending it through some type of artificial intelligence system. So
right. So is that something that you guys do? Do you guys outsource? Or they outsource that to you, or do you have data scientists on board?
So we're certainly looking at one of the fields that we want to hire for, and we are working with some AI companies. We are one of the early adopters of the Siemens MindSphere platform, which is a platform that allows you to get all that data up to the cloud, and they're partnered with Amazon Web Services, and it's going to be awesome. Mm-hmm. So manufacturing over the next 10 or 15 years, and you see it. You see it with the unemployment numbers and all, and as manufacturing comes back to the U.S., it's like, how can you do more with less? Because having the expertise on the plant floor is becoming more and more, and the systems are becoming more and more intelligent, more and more smart devices and all. And the guy who's the manufacturing engineer in the facility, he can't be an expert on everything. 30 years ago, he needed to know a PLC because the PLC was the central computer that was running everything. Everything else was just a device feeding into the PLC. So you know, it was, but now he's got to be an expert on everything. He's got to be an expert on vision systems. He's got to be an expert on network switches. He's got to be an expert on this, got to be an expert on that. And it just, nobody can do that. Nobody has the time to do that.
Nobody has time to learn that. Okay, so nobody has time to really kind of learn those different ends of the spectrum then as far as...
You can't be an expert on everything, mm-hmm. right? You got to have your niches that you play around with. Like Patti Engineering, for instance, we're a partner with Siemens and Mitsubishi. Our guys have a lot of training on Siemens and Mitsubishi. If you have a Rockwell project, we're probably not the people to go to. It's probably somebody else. But if you have Siemens or Mitsubishi, we know those platforms better than anybody else. So
let's talk about Patti Engineering. What do you guys specialize? Anything in particular, any type of manufacturing or process or versus discrete or cybersecurity kind of?
So we are very much discrete. Mm-hmm. We don't do any process. And we've done we've done a lot of automotive. We do some other cool stuff. We do some garment sortation systems, which are pretty cool things to do. We've done some other type stuff. We've done some food and bev systems. So we kind of touch a lot of different things. We try to be industry agnostic, but technology dependent. Mm-hmm. So if Siemens has, we recently did a milk processing plant for a large big box manufacturer, and we were able to use Siemens RFID technology there and lead with that, and it was a cool project. So
very good. So tell me about if someone comes to you, kind of what to that platform kind of question. Somebody comes to you with maybe they've got a mixture of things. Are you of platforms and PLCs and
sure.
things out there? Maybe you've connected the Rockwell with the Siemens thing in here and all these different equipment. What are you suggesting anything to them as far as like, hey, you guys should really go all one platform because it makes it easier in the long run?
Well, it's when you sit back, it's very hard to tell a customer throws control systems away because you should be all Siemens or you should. And you get customers that have a lot of a hodgepodge of different systems. And, really at that point, you're looking more at the information you're getting out of the systems and how you can improve those systems rather than the controls hardware itself. So,
okay. So let's talk a little bit about your company name. You had tell us how you named your company.
So in June of 1991, I started Patti Engineering. In June of 1991, I also married this girl named Patti, who's the CFO of Patti Engineering. So she has all the money. So if I'm ever bad, you'll never see me again. And she'll be sitting here doing the interview with you. I'm very much in love with her. And she is, I think we make a great partnership. She's very risk adverse, where I'm kind of a risk taker. And we have 2 children, a 22-year-old and a 15-year-old. The 22-year-old is actually works at Patti Engineering, although in the fall she's going to start law school to become a patent attorney because that's her dream. She loves to read and write as an engineer. You don't find many engineers that like to read and write. So those that do make great patent attorneys. And then I have a 15-year-old that he and I are buds because we're probably about the same age mentally.
Yeah, I think I'm still 17.
Yeah, exactly.
Well. I agree. So, and now, does he have any aspirations to be an engineer at all?
He's got the knack. I can see him eventually maybe going in that direction. He's very much into cars now. He likes baseball and basketball a lot, and then he's discovered girls within about the last year or so also.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, what regarding let's talk about 15-year-old or maybe 12-year-old
Sure.
Sam Hoff. Tell me about him. Was there any hints that he might be an engineer?
So it's interesting. A couple things. I was very much an audiophile, so I really liked music and taking apart. Like I rebuilt my mom's speakers at one point and this kind of stuff. I was really into cars. In fact, I went to a school, and I'll get a little plug in for it. It's called Kettering University in Flint. It used to be GMI. And it's very much related to the automotive industry, at least was 33 years ago when I started there. But I read, when I was a junior in high school, I read Lee Iacocca's autobiography. Great book. And when I read that, I wanted to get into the auto industry because I wanted to design a new Mustang, because Lee Iacocca was the guy who designed the Mustang originally. He was in charge of that Ford team. Well, I went to school as an ME automotive, right, and that was my major. So, but then when you started talking to the upperclassmen at GMI, they said, "Oh, if you work on the automotive program, you might be like a specialist on air conditioning systems and air conditioning delivery systems, and you do a lot of validation with it and this kind of stuff, and then maybe you work your way up where and." So the product side, as far as the guys who actually design the car, well, Iacocca didn't design the car. He ran the project. The guy who actually designs the cars are very much left-brained artist people that could probably paint a lot, this kind of stuff. And I'm not really that kind of guy. Well, at the same time, the unique thing about Kettering is their co-op program. So I co-opted a manufacturing facility that had a lot of controls, a lot of robotics, and this kind of stuff. And I fell in love with playing around with that stuff and being able to make manufacturing systems run better, and troubleshooting them when they broke and all that kind of good stuff. So at that point, I switched my major to EE, and I've been in manufacturing and industrial facilities ever since.
So how did you get from getting your EE to kind of thinking about wanting to start your own business? Did you work for someone?
So I co-opted with General Motors, and I worked for General Motors after I graduated, and I wrote my thesis on a product called the TCP Smart Screen, which was one of the first HMIs to be on the plant floor. Like Allen Bradley didn't even have a panel view at that point. And the things did not work out real well with TCP. I think it was kind of a situation where they made me a salesman with little training and throwing me out on the street. But I still very much had the technical ability to do things. I wanted to go back to the kind of the technical at that point. So I started Patti Engineering. It was me and a laptop, and for 2.5 years, that's all it was. And we've been growing steadily ever since then. I make my mistakes along the way, and it seems like about every 5 years, my role personally has to change. I last ever programmed the PLC in 1998 and wouldn't know how to program one today, unless you threw a really old one in front of me. You're constantly trying to improve yourself and see how you can be better for the company. So,
what were those early years like for you? That first couple, 2.5 years.
Lots of travel. So it was funny because Patti was the baby of 8. So when I would go on the road, she did not want to be all alone, so she'd go back and stay with her parents. And I can remember about 2 years into her marriage, her dad coming to me, and he was awesome. He goes, "Sam, why'd you ever get married to Patti?" I said, "Why is that, Ducky?" And he goes, "Because she hasn't moved out of the house." So,
very good. So you're traveling quite a bit here. Tell me about somebody winning your first client, your first few clients.
So my first client was Fanuc Robotics, and we are still actually they're a client of ours now. We buy robots from them. So, but that was my very first client for probably the first 2.5 years. 90% of our work was for them. So
yeah. What? Tell me about. So, are you your president, CEO, or?
Yeah, president,
CEO. So, two things I want to ask you about. Now, you mentioned you're kind of more the risky person. Now, I understand that the CFO should definitely be risk averse, but I was a little surprised that you said you're CEO and you were more the risky person. So, tell us about kind of being a CEO and kind of what kind of risks you're taking, or what kind of drives that.
It's it's just kind of the way I am, So it's just kind of in my nature.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to take stupid risk, and I've learned over the years to always run things through Patti first, because a lot of times if she says no, it means that she's pretty much right on. So I have a good team around me. Dave Foster, who comes to the CSIA conference every year, he was actually employee number 4, I think. He joined in 1995, and then Steve Palmgren, believe last year celebrated 15 years, so he started in 2002. So those guys are very good advisors and have a lot of input on what kind of direction and what kind of clients we work with and that kind of stuff. So,
what's the first hour, 90 minutes of your day look like?
I drop off the 15-year-old at school, and his school's about a mile from our office. So then I get into the office and start with coffee and email and that kind of stuff. And I like to a lot of times in the morning send a thank you card and sometimes a little gift box with a Patti Engineering mug or whatever to a client I might have met with the day before or a couple days before. And then usually plan out the day from there. And that's if I'm in the office. I still travel a lot. We have an office in Indiana and an office in Austin, so I get down there as much as I can, and I always like to be in front of clients as much as I can.
Mm-hmm.
So,
tell me what's unique about how you approach a project. You're not managing project, obviously,
right?
Jeff, but you've obviously set the tone and the culture for your company.
Sure.
So, what kind of how do you approach a project, or how does the company approach a project, and what's kind of unique about that?
I think we try very much to put ourselves in our customers' situation and understand what they're going through and try to take, kind of try to see the problems that we're trying to solve from their perspective. Mm-hmm.
So, are there any kind of, tools that you've developed or templates or things is there kind of documentation that you go by?
We have project processes, mm-hmm. procedure, and we have a lot of we have a lot of other things that we do per se. One of the things, we have backups of every project we've ever done. We got a call about a month ago. I think it was a project that we did in '97, and they just needed the software, so we were able to get the software to them, which made our customer feel real good. You know what I mean? And that's kind of what you get with working with Patti Engineering. We try to, because we try to take, a control system can only control things. So that's kind of why we get into robotics. We get into a little bit of mechanical changes and all on how to improve their manufacturing lines and their distribution systems and that kind of stuff.
Very good. Do you consider yourself an entrepreneur still? From those first few days, first few years.
Yeah. I would say so.
Yeah. What is that still exciting to you?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah. So, yeah.
What? Tell me about. How do you describe to people what you do? How do you tell
My mom still
new friend.
doesn't know what I do. He works with robots. That's all I know. So, until you've lived it, until you've been into facilities, and until you've kind of hacked around on a controller or whatever, you really don't know. I mean, I think a lot of the world doesn't need to know. I'll tell you a funny story. So we do a work with a company called the Men's Warehouse, right? And he's no longer involved in the Men's Warehouse because the board kicked him out. But a guy named George Zimmer, a New York City guy, moved to Houston. He started a company called the Men's Warehouse. And they absolutely have an awesome distribution center in Houston. I mean, I've got a lot of respect for the way they run their business and all this stuff. Well, so I was talking to the vice president of distribution one day. I'm like, has George ever been here? He goes, George has been here twice. He goes, the first time George was here, he was on a phone call in the parking lot, never got out of the car. Second time he came through, he went through and he goes, wow, is this what we do? Wow, this is how we do it? And I said, like all good CEOs, he's very much focused on the product and the customer and the results, and has no idea how things actually get to the client. And I think that's a very important thing. So I don't think everybody needs to know what we do, because it's not important to them. So
if you're doing the job right,
yeah,
they never do, right?
Exactly.
It's all the magic. It's
all the magic,
that happens behind the scenes, right? Yep. Okay. Tell us maybe the most important, or the most challenging kind of project that you've worked on, and maybe there's a customer comes to you and you're like really maybe a head scratcher, but you ultimately solved it.
We've all had projects that definitely are challenging and definitely try you. I will say that our company in 27 years, and I wear this as a badge of honor, we've never walked away from a customer, we've never walked away from a project. Every time we've had a very difficult project, or a project that's strained our organization, it's a great time for reflection. It's a great time to look back and say, what did we do wrong? What can we do better? And how can we improve? And what are the lessons learned here? So, we've, the other day somebody was saying to me, the summer of 2016 was a great summer because, the weather was perfect, 75 every day. I got a lot of golf in and all. I was thinking to myself, I remember what I was doing in the summer of 2016. It was one of those challenging projects. So,
maybe not such a great summer.
No. For Sam Huff, it was not a
lot of golf.
No. So I'll put it this way: our 25th wedding anniversary was June 22nd, 2016, and I did not spend it with the wife. I spent it taking bullets for my guys while we were getting a job done. And by the time we were done, the job was done, and the system was running. So.
That's what's important.
Yeah,
keeping the line moving.
Exactly. Yeah. Another guy has told me one time. He goes, it's the sound of silence, and when you're in a facility and the facility goes silent, that's when it's the loudest.
Not good.
Yeah.
Talk to maybe some of the newer engineers, or maybe they're not engineers yet. Talk to that high school student who's thinking about. Maybe they're good with numbers and math. What should be attractive to them about industrial automation and all the kind of cool stuff that's going on with automation in the world, that maybe they should consider this as a career?
It's really cool to know that you're being a productive member of society, and that you're helping to make things better. It's really cool to see the results of your system. a system that you maybe work on for 2, 3, 4 months in the office, and you know it's going to run well, and you know it's going to blow the customer away, and then you get it out in the field, and the customer's using it, and the users are using it, and they really like it. There's just a sense of pride that can't be duplicated with and it's tough to find in other careers. You know, if you're gonna, it's gonna be hard work. It's not gonna be easy. There's gonna be travel, and if there's not travel, then you might be in a facility where you're gonna work long hours or get calls in the middle of the night and that kind of stuff. But it's a very rewarding work too. So
great. So as we're wrapping up here, let's kind of jump back to CSIA again. You guys are certified, and have been for how long?
Our first certification was 2002. Every 3 years since then, and our next audit is scheduled, I think, third or fourth quarter of 2018. So,
what do you think is the best thing about, I guess, the best practices? I mean, is there something in the best practices or certification that you can really kind of point at? I guess best practices that really has made your company grow or really tighten up?
I think the biggest thing that I like about the best practice is that it's a living, breathing document. And that if you take a look at the best practices manual now as opposed to like 2002 when it first started, there's been a lot of improvements to it and a lot of updates for cybersecurity, which nobody was talking about in 2002. A lot of updates, for agile project development versus waterfall, and just and every time we get audited, we learn a lot from it. Because even if you pass, nobody scores perfect. So areas where they say you should improve, you work on improvement.
Always room for improvement.
Absolutely.
Very good. And then, Sam, you were also on the board, I think, as well, right?
I was on the board for a while. Yes, yeah. It was
so
a great
were you chairman or were you?
I was never chairman.
Okay, but you were on the board and you served for a term there as well.
Yep.
What did you get out of that?
It was really neat to see how the organization worked in the background and all, and I didn't really realize that before. So that was cool.
Good.
Yeah.
Do you serve on any nonprofit boards now or anything like that? Did you do or any volunteering?
Well, I'm former president of the local Rotary Club, and I've gotten involved at my alma mater with Kettering. I serve on a board that reaches out to some alumni and that kind of stuff. We've done a scholarship at the school in the name of one of our former employees who tragically passed, and we've also they're building a new learning commons at the school, and one of the rooms, probably similar to this room that we're doing the interview in here, will be the Patti Engineering collaboration room. So that takes up some time also. We do some funds with the company, and a lot of times we do down here in Detroit. They have Dodge for Detroit, which raises money for local Boy Scouts. So we put the dodgeball team together and all that kind of good stuff. So we try to do some fundraising through that kind of stuff also.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So I guess last question here. Tell me, now we're at the Manufacturing in America conference here in Detroit, and I see that we're gonna be at Ford Field.
Yep.
We're gonna be down on the field, kicking field goals here, or at least attempting to kick a field goal.
So kind of cool thing. We're big into Siemens MindSphere. We're their first OT, first operational technology partner in the U.S. So we really wanted to get some experience with it, and we're like, we got to have something that we throw data up onto the cloud for, and something at the event. And we're like, well, everybody kind of goes down, you kick field goals. I remember 3 or 4 years ago when I was here, I kicked like 3 or 4 field goals, and I kicked one, I think, from the 10-yard line, then I moved to the 15, then I missed at the 20-yard line. But I kicked 2. I'm like really proud of myself. It's like, it'd be cool to have that data on the screen, have some type of leaderboard or whatever. So we are we've put some pretty cool sensing technology together to monitor the ball and how it goes off somebody's foot, and got a sensor to sense when the ball is kicked and all this kind of stuff, and we've made it really easy for people, because a lot of times you come down and everybody wants to have your, you enter your stuff and all that stuff, and we just have you put your badge on and it takes all the information from there, and now you can see. Okay, one of the cool things is that field goal that I kicked from the 10-yard line. Well, one of the outputs is it'll tell you how long it would have been good for. So maybe it could have been good from the 28-yard line or something like that. So so we got some cool features in there. It's all going to be put on MindSphere. You're going to be able to see the path of your kick, all this kind of good stuff. And then you can log in at home and see it. You can go anywhere else, like at our Patti Engineering booth. You can log in and show your buddies, hey, look at my kick. Well, you think you can do better than that? So it creates some cool competition about it. So I think our team's done a really good job on it. And we were out this past weekend testing at a local high school football field, and then we all tested it last night at Patti Engineering. I'm sure they're testing it over on the field today. So it's going to be cool.
Very good. So does it say whether it was good or not?
Absolutely.
Are you going to put referees out of business?
Maybe we could. We need to really talk to the NFL about this. We could put referees out of business. Because, the one thing is, and the referees always, but the kick that goes over the goalpost, a lot of times you're like, oh, is that good?
Yeah.
The referees
have laser beams or something through their sensors, like at the top, but they don't.
No.
Oh, okay.
No. Basically, what the referee does is he looks straight up the goalpost and he judges it from there. But we can do it better.
Robots don't lie. Yeah. Or they're never wrong. Well.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Very good. Well, I'm looking forward to that. And then can I make sure I get the data for my kick, and I can maybe go submit it to the Packers and maybe put Mason Crosby out of a job.
There you go.
We'll see. Maybe
Absolutely.
Not. Probably not.
Yeah. Well, don't worry. If Mason Crosby has to hit a 62-yard field goal against the Lions, he will kick it, because the Lions are very much snake bit.
Sam, I really appreciate you sitting down and
Tony.
talking with me. It would be good to see you here in the next couple days as well. So come by and say hi. And I really appreciate it.
All right, sounds good.
Very
Thank
good.
you.
Sam Hoff, Patti Engineering. Take care.
All right, thanks.